She checked her reflection one last time in the polished mirror of the restaurant's entrance. Smooth hair, soft makeup, a dress that hugged her curves just right. Everything was perfect, except for the glaring fact that her blind date had stood her up. Again. Sighing, she slumped into her chair, scanning the empty opposite side. The waiter tried to offer polite small talk, but she waved him off. Her phone buzzed, a text from a friend. "How's the mysterious stranger?" She rolled her eyes, muttering under her breath, "Apparently he's not mysterious at all, he's non-existent." Before she could take another sip of her untouched wine, a familiar voice cut through the ambient music. "He stood you up?" Her stomach dropped. Turning slowly, her ex was there, leaning casually against the wall, smirking like he had all the power in the world. Of course he'd show up here. It's not what it looks like," she stammered, but he laughed loud enough for nearby diners to glance over. "You always pick the wrong men," he taunted, stepping closer. She braced herself, ready to defend her dignity, or flee, but then the room seemed to shift. A tall, broad-shouldered man appeared at the entrance. His dark eyes swept over her ex with a cold, sharp intensity. "You're in my seat," he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of authority that made the entire restaurant go silent. Her ex froze, his smirk faltering. "Excuse me?" "I said, my seat," the man repeated, stepping forward. In a single fluid motion, he gripped the ex's arm and pulled him toward the door. The ex struggled, cursing, but the man's presence was magnetic and terrifying at once. He didn't just move him, he erased him from the room. She stared, heart racing as he returned to her table. Dark hair falling slightly over his eyes, tailored suit impeccable, aura dangerous yet magnetic. "Are you okay?" he asked, his gaze lingering on her longer than necessary. A shiver ran down her spine. I think so," she whispered, unsure if she was relieved or terrified. He smiled, small, controlled, and dangerously charming. "Good. Because no one treats you like that while I'm around." Her pulse skipped. This was no ordinary man. This was someone she would never forget. The moment her ex disappeared behind the restaurant door, the restaurant seemed to breathe again, but not entirely in relief. Her pulse was still racing, and her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her glass. "You really didn't need him showing up," the man said, sliding into the chair across from her. His dark eyes studied her like he could see every thought she was trying to hide. I know," she admitted, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "It's just surprising. And embarrassing." He leaned back, the dim light catching the sharp angles of his face. "Embarrassment is temporary. Some people, like him, shouldn't get the satisfaction." His voice was calm, almost hypnotic, yet every word carried unspoken threat. She shivered, but not from fear alone. There was something magnetic about him, something that made her stomach twist and her heart race. "I'm sorry," she said, unsure what she was apologizing for. Her ex. The entire situation? "No need," he said, his gaze softening for a fraction of a second, just enough to make her notice. Then the intensity returned, like a shadow darkening his features. "But stay alert. Not everyone will be as understanding as I am." Her curiosity pricked. "Understanding? You know him?" He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Let's just say I have my ways. He won't bother you again." She swallowed, suddenly aware of the closeness between them. He smelled faintly of expensive cologne and danger, a combination that made her pulse quicken. "Why? Are you helping me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He tilted his head, a dangerous smile playing on his lips. "Because some things shouldn't be allowed. And some people are worth protecting." Her breath hitched. Protecting her? From a man she barely knew? From a world she couldn't even begin to understand? Before she could reply, he stood, subtly scanning the restaurant. "Sit tight. I'll make sure tonight ends quietly." And just like that he was gone. Leaving her stunned, aware that the man who had just saved her wasn't ordinary. He was something darker, something powerful, and something she already couldn't stop thinking about. By the time the dessert plates arrived, she had barely touched her food. The room seemed to shrink around her, every shadow feeling heavier with his presence. He returned quietly, sliding into the chair across from her with a fluid grace that demanded attention. His dark eyes, intense and unreadable, locked onto hers. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," he said softly, yet each word carried a weight that made her stomach twist. I don't even know your name," she admitted, nervously twisting her napkin. "Names are overrated," he replied, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "Call me what you like." Just, know that I'm here now. She blinked, trying to process the layers of danger, charm and authority emanating from him. The world seemed to hush around them, the murmurs of other diners fading as if he pulled the air into a private bubble. What happens if he comes back? She asked, referring to her ex. He leaned forward slightly, the aura of menace palpable. He won't. Not while I'm around. His voice dropped to a low, almost dangerous murmur. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. A shiver ran down her spine, part fear, part something else she couldn't name. The magnetic pull between them was undeniable. She tried to smile, but it faltered under his gaze. And why me? Why care? Because you shouldn't be treated like a game piece, he said, his tone firm. And because some people are worth the trouble. Her heart thumped, dangerously aware of the intensity building between them. He wasn't just protective, he was possessive. And she didn't know whether to run or surrender. Before she could answer, he glanced toward the door, his expression darkening. Stay close. Tonight isn't over, and I don't intend to let anyone make you feel small again. With that, he rose, leaving her flushed, dizzy, and strangely exhilarated. She realized something frightening. She wanted him to stay. She wanted to feel that protective shadow, even if it meant stepping into a world she didn't understand, a world she already sensed would consume her. And somewhere deep down, a small, reckless part of her thrilled at the thought. The next day she thought she could return to normal life. But normal didn't last long. She was sipping coffee at a quiet cafe when a familiar, infuriating voice cut through the hum of morning chatter. Well, look who finally got herself out. Her ex standing there with that smug grin that made her blood boil, as if nothing had changed. She froze, heart pounding, caught between anger and a flash of old familiarity. I told you not to. Before she could finish, a shadow fell over him. The Mafia Boss's dark presence was suddenly at her side, taller, broader, impossible to ignore. His eyes, cold and sharp, locked onto her ex like a predator spotting prey. You're here again? He said, his voice low, dangerous. Every syllable seemed to press against her ex's chest. Oh, I was just, her ex stammered, shrinking under the intensity of that gaze. You weren't invited, the man said, stepping closer. The cafe seemed to grow colder, the space between them shrinking with tension so thick it could be sliced with a knife. She felt a shiver of fear and something else, a thrill she couldn't name, watching the possessive way he moved, his body a shield between her and her ex. Her ex tried to laugh it off. She's still? But the Mafia Boss didn't let him finish. With a subtle tilt of his hand, a gesture more powerful than words, he made it clear, she belonged to him. The cafe's soft music, the morning sunlight, even the clinking of cups faded into the background as the ex realized he was powerless here. Slowly he backed away, muttering something about, this isn't over, but the warning lacked conviction. Her heart finally began to slow, though adrenaline still coursed through her veins. She looked at him, the man who had stepped into her chaos and claimed her safety, and something deeper. You didn't have to do that, she whispered, voice barely audible. He leaned in, his dark eyes softening for a fraction of a second before returning to their dangerous intensity. I know. But some things can't be left to chance. And neither can you. Her pulse raced, a mix of fear, awe, and something dangerously close to desire. She realized she was no longer just caught between past and present. She was caught between safety and temptation, and the temptation was inhumanly irresistible. The night air was thick, the city lights flickering as she stepped out of the cafe. Her heart still raced from the earlier confrontation, and she couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching her. A sudden chill ran down her spine and instinctively, her hand tightened around the strap of her bag. That's when she felt it, a presence behind her, deliberate and slow. Before she could react, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The door opened and a shadowed figure stepped out. Her ex. His smug grin was back, but this time, there was an edge of desperation beneath it. Thought I'd run into you again? He said, taking a step closer. A voice cut through the tension like a knife. Step back. The Mafia Boss appeared as if from the shadows, his suit impeccable, his eyes flashing lethal intensity. In a heartbeat, he was between her and the ex, his presence radiating power. This is your last warning, he said, his voice low, dangerous. Touch her and you'll regret it. Her ex faltered, suddenly aware he was outmatched. The Mafia Boss's gaze wasn't just threatening, it carried the weight of a man who could ruin lives without blinking. She felt her pulse race, not only from fear for her ex's boldness, but from the undeniable magnetism of the man standing before her. Every movement he made was precise, controlled, and dominant, and she couldn't look away. "You don't know what you're messing with," the Mafia Boss said almost to himself before turning his dark gaze to her. "You're safe, for now." A shiver ran down her spine, not from cold but from the dangerous intimacy of the moment. He didn't just protect her. He claimed her in the way only a man like him could. Her ex, defeated and wary, retreated, mumbling threats that sounded hollow under the Mafia Boss's scrutiny. When the black car drove off, the Mafia Boss finally relaxed slightly, his eyes still intense as they found hers. "You have no idea what you've stepped into," he murmured, his voice low, almost a growl. "But I'll make sure you survive it, if you let me." Her heart pounded in response, not just from fear but from desire, excitement, and something dangerously intoxicating. The pull of a man who could be both her protector and her obsession. The office was quiet, dimly lit, and charged with an unspoken intensity. She hadn't meant to come here tonight, but the Mafia Boss had insisted, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You shouldn't be wandering alone," he said, stepping close, his shadow falling over her. His dark eyes locked onto hers, and the air between them seemed to thrum with electricity. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her pulse betrayed her. He smirked, a slow, deliberate curve of his lips. "You're never just fine when danger is nearby, or when I'm around." She shivered, feeling the heat of his presence brush against her skin. Every word, every movement was magnetic, a mix of warning and temptation she couldn't resist. "You intimidate me," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "I do," he said, stepping closer until she could feel his breath near her ear. "And I like that it excites you." Her heart raced as he leaned in, dangerously close, his hand brushing her arm, not harshly but possessively. The thrill of fear mixed with something more primal, something she wasn't ready to name. "You shouldn't feel this way," she said, trying to step back, but he closed the distance effortlessly. "Who said you can resist?" he murmured, his dark gaze scanning her face, memorizing every flicker of emotion. "I don't just protect you. I claim you. And you already want it even if you deny it." Her breath hitched. The intensity of his stare, the dominance in his posture, it was intoxicating, frightening, and exhilarating all at once. He leaned slightly, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "I won't apologize for wanting you," he whispered. "Nor for making sure you know what's mine." Her knees went weak. She knew she shouldn't, but her body responded, her heart pounding, a rush of desire that she couldn't fight. In that quiet, charged room, danger and desire intertwined, leaving her trembling, not from fear alone, but from the undeniable pull of a man who could destroy her world, and yet made her crave it. The gala was glittering, a sea of elegant gowns and sharp tuxedos, but she felt exposed, vulnerable, under the watchful eyes of the city's elite. And of course her ex was there, lurking near the bar like a shark smelling blood. "You really didn't think you'd see me?" he said, sidling up with that infuriating grin. "Still playing hard to get?" Her stomach nodded. "Leave me alone," she said, voice firm, but her heart raced. Before he could reply, the Mafia Boss appeared. He didn't walk, he glided, and in his wake the room seemed to hold its breath. His dark gaze landed on her ex, and the air between them crackled with menace. "Back off," he said, low and dangerous. His voice carried power, not just from authority but from something more primal. Possession. Her ex faltered, suddenly aware of the lethal energy radiating from the man standing before him. "Hey, I was just—" "Don't speak," the Mafia Boss interrupted, taking a deliberate step closer. He leaned slightly, enough that she could see the intensity in his eyes. "She's mine. Say it again and you'll regret it." Her ex stammered, flustered. The confident arrogance that usually drove her crazy was gone, replaced with fear. She swallowed, heart pounding, torn between relief and the overwhelming tension radiating from him. This was more than protection. It was a warning, a claim, and an assertion of power all at once. "You don't get to humiliate her," he continued, his tone razor sharp. "You don't get to exist in her space. Not anymore." Her ex's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth, but the Mafia Boss's gaze pinned him, silent yet suffocating, until he finally backed away, muttering under his breath. Turning toward her, his posture softened just enough to make her pulse skip, not from fear but from desire. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice low, intimate, almost vulnerable in contrast to the storm he just unleashed. Yes," she whispered, though her legs still trembled. He reached out, brushing a stray hair from her face, possessive and tender all at once. "Good," he murmured. Because I won't let anyone make you feel small again. Ever. In that moment she realized the depth of the pull he had over her. Not just his power but the way he made her feel seen, protected, and dangerously alive all at once. The city was quiet, the streets slick with rain as she followed him into a secluded penthouse. The glow from the skyline painted the room in sharp, seductive shadows. "Why here?" she asked, her voice hesitant. He didn't answer immediately. Instead he poured 2 glasses of deep red wine, his movements precise, controlled, commanding. Finally he met her gaze. "There are things you need to understand about me, about my world," he said, voice low, dangerous but tinged with a rare vulnerability. Her pulse quickened. "Your world?" she asked, a flicker of fear, mixed with curiosity, passing through her. He nodded, swirling the wine in his glass, eyes dark with memories he didn't yet share. "I protect. I control. I take what is mine. And sometimes, that means making decisions you might not understand. Decisions that look cruel to outsiders." She swallowed, sensing the weight behind his words. You're involved with dangerous people, aren't you?" He exhaled slowly, stepping closer. "Yes. And because of that you're in danger, even now. But I'm telling you this so you know. Not to scare you, but so you see why I claim you." She felt the pull between fear and fascination tighten in her chest. She had glimpsed danger before, but now it was real, intimate, and inescapable. He stepped closer still, dark eyes scanning her face, memorizing every flicker of emotion. "You think I'm just a protector," he murmured, "but I'm more than that. I want you. Not just safe. I want you completely." Her breath hitched. The intensity in his gaze, the commanding authority in his voice, made her shiver. "And what if I can't handle this?" He smiled, dangerous and magnetic. "You don't have to handle it alone. I'll guide you, protect you, claim you, and maybe I'll make you crave it too." Her lips parted, heart racing as the gravity of his words settled around them. She realized she was no longer just caught in a whirlwind of fear and attraction. She was falling into a world dark, dangerous, and intoxicating. A storm of desire and uncertainty surged through her, binding her to him in ways she could neither resist nor escape. The room was heavy with shadows and tension, the city lights casting long, seductive patterns across the walls. She could barely breathe, her pulse hammering as he stood close, a storm of danger and desire radiating from him. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, though every nerve in her body was alive with anticipation. "Why?" he murmured, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "You've been mine since the first time I saw you. Don't you feel it?" Her stomach twisted, a mix of fear and longing. She did feel it. Every glance, every touch, every word had pulled her deeper into him. And now, there was no going back. He stepped closer, heat radiating from his body, his presence intoxicating and impossible to resist. "I won't apologize for wanting you," he said, his voice low, commanding. "I won't apologize for claiming you." Her breath hitched as he brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch deliberate, possessive. Her body responded before her mind could, a shiver running down her spine. "You're dangerous," she whispered, voice trembling, "and I shouldn't want this." He smirked, dangerously close, his lips brushing the shell of her ear. "You do want it. Don't fight it. I can feel it, in the way your body reacts to me." A gasp escaped her lips as he pressed closer, the magnetic pull between them overwhelming. Every touch, every look, every movement claimed her, heart, body, and mind. "I'm yours," she breathed almost involuntarily, the words tasting like surrender. "Good," he murmured, a dark, satisfied smile on his lips. "Because I intend to make sure you know it, completely." And with that he pulled her into him, the world outside fading into shadows. Desire, danger, and possession intertwined, leaving them both suspended in a moment that was exquisite, intoxicating, and undeniably theirs. In that embrace she realized the truth. She didn't want to escape. She wanted him, danger, darkness, and all. And he wanted her in the same way, unyielding, consuming, and absolute. The city skyline glittered behind them, but inside the penthouse the world felt smaller, quieter, safer, yet charged with the intensity that had defined the past weeks. Her ex was gone for good, vanished into a world he could no longer touch. The threats, the petty humiliations, the lingering reminders of her past, they all seemed distant, powerless, meaningless. She turned to him. The Mafia Boss stood close, his dark eyes softening just enough to reveal the man beneath the danger, the control, and the dominance. But the aura of power, the subtle, unyielding possession, remained. "You're really mine, aren't you?" she whispered, heart still racing from the memory of every heated moment, every stolen touch, every battle fought to protect her. He smirked, his hand brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. Yes, he murmured, voice low, velvety, dangerous. My. And I don't intend to share you. Her lips curved into a smile, a mixture of relief, desire, and surrender. She had feared this life, feared the darkness surrounding him, but now she realized it was exactly where she belonged. Then, I'm staying, she said, voice trembling, even if it's dangerous. He stepped closer, possessive and tender all at once, his presence overwhelming yet intoxicating. Good, he whispered. Because the world outside doesn't matter. You're with me, you're safe. And wanted. Completely. The tension, the danger, the desire, they all fused into a single, undeniable truth. She was his. Not just in protection, not just in need, but in body, heart, and soul. As the city lights shimmered below, they stood together, shadows entwined, danger at bay for the moment, but passion, obsession, and desire blazing brighter than ever. In his arms, she realized that life would never be ordinary. But then again, she didn't want ordinary. She wanted him, danger, darkness, and all. And he wanted her in the same unrelenting, consuming way, their fates bound beneath the shadows of a world that feared him, and yet she loved him still. The past was gone. The ex was gone. Only they remained, two souls caught in danger, desire, and undeniable possession.